If I'm being honest, I'm making this video for a selfish reason. As a full-time medical student, new YouTuber, and someone who likes to have a fair few side projects running with everything, I've recently found myself start to get very busy every single day. And yes, even though right now I'm really enjoying most parts of the things that I'm working on, I'm starting to get wary of burnout. I know it's early, I know I've just started uni like a month ago, but this is something that I really don't want to ignore. So in this video, I'm going to be going through two big actionable pieces of advice that I know will help me, but also help so many others avoid burnout when they're studying in medical school. Let's get straight into it. Study only as a default. As I go through my week, I study only as a default. And then when any other fun social thing comes up, I do that instead. I treat that as a priority. I organize the study around my life instead of the other way around. One of the main issues that comes with burnout is this feeling like we're missing out, like we're not having fun on a daily basis. And that's what happens when we prioritize work over everything else. Our routine becomes monotonous and our day starts to lack variety.
They just put in study all over the place and they forget about the things they love doing. Now, again, our top students are in the minority on this graph as well. But instead of putting in study first, these guys do something very different. They put in when they're not going to study. So the first thing to go into these timetables are things like socializing, hobbies, sports. And it's only once they've got these activities in that they then come back and they begin to feel the study around it.
So don't just skip the small social things or the gym or the fun hobbies that you love. Don't just skip them in the name of doing more work. Oh, I have more work. Don't do that. Instead, study more effectively in the free time that you have. Make that time more purposeful. Funnily enough, after I actually started to plan my day around the activities I was doing rather than around my work, the time that I gave to studying and to preparing for exams automatically became a lot more effective because I had this incentive to get through the content more efficiently. During my study sessions, I started to focus on the important topics a lot more. Then I'd come to the other stuff. In class, I started to become a lot more active, asking questions, figuring out stuff in the moment itself rather than leaving it for later, because I knew I just simply wouldn't have time to come back to it later in the day. My point is that yes, filling up your schedule with non-academic activities, it may seem a bit counterintuitive, but when you have less time to study, your study sessions become drastically more productive and effective. Whether it's hanging out with my friends or seeing my cousins on the weekend or even filming this YouTube video, all of these plans help motivate me to get my work done a lot faster because I know I have all of this stuff to look forward to. I always used to prioritize in this way, and I'm not sure what it is, whether it's the new environment or coming to medical school or the pileup of work. For the last few weeks, I've only been focused on studying, and I can literally feel myself get more inefficient and get more tired in the day. And it's only been a few days since I've started to think about burnout and start thinking about prioritizing my other activities. But just after a few days of prioritizing hobbies and the fun social activities happening and then doing work as a default, I already feel a difference. I feel like the day has so much more variety and energy, and I genuinely feel like studying for those 3 to 4 hours in my free time was a lot more efficient and beneficial than the 8 to 10 hours I would be usually spending on a daily basis. The second idea to avoid burnout is to know the game that you're playing. What's the actual purpose of the thing that you're working this hard for? Like, genuinely ask yourself. Because most of us in medical school, we come from A levels being the top students. And then we want to maintain that because that's part of our identity. So we blindly just work hard to get the good grades. So much so that that becomes our primary aim in university. And this was starting to become true for me as well. Because in the last few weeks, I've been studying with this idea that I'm gonna aim to get into the top 1% of people in the year. But recently I realized that that reasoning doesn't really make sense anymore. Ranking first in the year and getting 100% in all my exams, that doesn't really have any big benefit this early on in my career. It requires a crazy level of daily commitment, and it's a lot of pressure to put on yourself to get to that 100% mark. So instead, I've started to think about the game that I'm playing. What's the reason that I'm studying? And the thought that comes to my mind is that I'm doing it to become a good, competent doctor, to gradually broaden my knowledge, and honestly just keep up with the work in a clever way so that I have time to develop skills, to do hobbies, and to actually build stuff like this YouTube channel. And thinking like that instead makes the studying on the day-to-day a lot more enjoyable. It makes it a lot easier to manage, if I'm being honest. When it comes to burnout and knowing the game that you're playing, there's this question that keeps coming back to my head. What parts of my life am I optimizing for? What parts of my life do I want to make perfect as possible, keep improving? And what parts of my life will I be satisfied with if it gets to a certain level, or if they remain balanced? I haven't really gone that far with my thoughts on this, but what I do know is that I don't want studying in medical school to be something that I'm optimizing for, to be making perfect, at least this early on. I'd rather just have it be maintained at a decent level with something that I can be satisfied with. If you'd like to learn about the effective study techniques that I've been using in medical school that have been proving to be really helpful when it comes to working efficiently, then check these videos out. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, subscribe for more content in the future, and as always, I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.